There we go. Good evening. Good evening. I have a overview of a case out of Las Vegas for y'all. This lady's name is Devin Michaels. I'm just gonna give y'all an overview of the case, and later on in the week, um, I want to go over the whole case this week. With that being said, let's get into it. We're going to be coming from Court TV and Law and Crime Trials. Let's get it.
Of her ex, Jonathan Willett. But the story did not begin on August 7th of 2023, and all I can say is buckle up because you're in for a wild ride. This is Jonathan in life. It's Jonathan's two young children that he shared with the defendant. Both girls, faces blocked out, they're preteen young children. You will learn during the course of this trial that John had a son from a prior relationship named Devier. That after Devier was born, he split with Devier's mother, eventually getting into a relationship with the defendant. They then had these two children together. They separated, and there was a custody agreement that was ordered by the family court in which the victim had full physical custody of the girls. You will learn that the defendant was not happy about that situation, that the defendant wanted to have control of her girls, and she wanted to start a new life with Devier, the same Devier that is John's son. On August 7th of 2023, Yoko Willett, an elderly woman, woke up to find her dead son in his room with what she referred to as his face and neck missing. This is the 911 call she puts.
Yes, this is Yoko Willett. My number is address is 269 Drive, and yeah, 702-203-8905. Okay, I was downstairs, and my son is on the bed, and I open up the, I don't know, open the cover, and open up the, I don't know, can you come over? I have no idea. I go to the outside this morning, and I think how old is your son? I'm 46. Is he breathing? Over. Where's he bleeding from? I don't know yet, does he do you see any weapons around him? No. Does he have to wait upon himself? Can you tell? Does it look like he hurt himself at all? Like, I didn't know his name. He was trying to move out from my house. Okay. His girlfriend was here yesterday. Okay. When's the last time you saw him? Yeah, when's the last time you saw him? Okay, how long ago? Last night. I think somebody comes to me. Okay, yeah. Huh? Do you have a defibrillator available at your house, a shocking machine? I don't think I'm sure. I don't. That's okay, but ma'am, what I want you to do is take a shower. Do you feel safe?
That is what police found when they arrived at the Willett residence. Jonathan on his bed in his bedroom. As you can see, his head is missing. Large blood stain at the foot of the bed there, and a large amount of blood underneath where his head should be. Officers eventually removed the cover from his body and noted several chemical burns, or what appeared to be strange chemical burns on his body. And a very clean decapitation that you can see. The Henderson Police Department was responsible for the investigation. After first responders arrived on scene, clearly couldn't render any medical aid to the victim, they locked down the scene. Homicide investigators are then enlisted and take over. Along with the homicide investigators, they bring out an army of crime scene analysts and treat this case obviously very seriously, and they go into the home after executing a search warrant. When they go into the home, they obviously focus on the bedroom, but they do a pretty thorough search of the entire residence, the curtilage, the backyard, the front, the trash cans, the upstairs bedrooms, the kitchen, the living room, and these are the items that they find. A couple of chemical bottles, obviously relevant for the potential chemical burns on the victim's body. They find some interesting writings that you'll see a little bit more of later, demonstrating that there was a contentious custody case going on between the victim and someone at that point who saw it. They see out front John's moving truck, the victim's moving truck. You'll learn that he had a moving business. There's a trailer on the back. It's parked a little cattywampus going the wrong way on the street, poking out into the street as though he may have planned on moving after he last parked that car, that truck. The items that weren't found are what was particularly notable for the investigators. Didn't find a murder weapon.
Ah, crap. I didn't mean to do
For the
that.
programs that
I didn't mean to do that. There we go.
Didn't find a murder weapon. They didn't find whatever this person used to cut his head off. They did not find his head. They did not find his wallet. They did not find his truck keys, and they did not find his phone. They interviewed Yoko, and the gentleman above Yoko's photo is Yoshida, her partner. According to Yoko and Yoshida, the defendant, who they referred to as Nikki and knew as Nikki, ultimately identified as Devin Michaels, was the last person to see Jonathan alive. Nikki and John had been moving the girls and John's items from this Paladura address to Nikki's address on Porcupine Rim that she shared with Devier, and for a temporary period over the summer, the young girls. They learned that Nikki and John returned to this address, the Paladura address, for the last time at 10 p.m. on August 6th, or around 10 p.m. They learned from Yoko that about 1 a.m. she was going downstairs for a glass of water and ran into the defendant, who she will describe to you when you hear from her as she appeared to be startled to see. The defendant and Yoko have a conversation. It's relatively brief. Yoko's in the kitchen cleaning up some dishes. The defendant is out in the kitchen, and they begin to talk when the defendant tells Yoko, John's asleep. Don't go in there. Those aren't her words. You'll hear this through the course of the trial. She says, John's asleep. He's passed out. We have plans for him to move some more stuff in the morning, kind of don't bother him kind of thing. Yoko then noticed that the lights were on in John's room, but decided, hey, if he's asleep, I'm not going to go in there. She returns back upstairs. Yoko went to sleep, leaving Nikki, or the defendant, alone in the home. You will learn very clearly that there were only 4 people in the home at the time of this incident: the victim, the defendant, Yoko, and Yoshida. Yoko also will tell you that around 8 a.m. she found John without a face. You probably heard from the 911 call, there's a bit of a language barrier. She'll do her best to describe what she initially saw and the shock, obviously, that ensued. So the defendant is the last person to see him, so investigators are very curious to speak with her. Homicide detectives summon her to the scene. They get a hold of her via a phone number given by a neighbor. She answers that phone. It's her phone. She agrees to come to the scene, leaving Devier and the girls are with the defendant as well. She, in her initial interview, says John is her ex. They share the two children together. That they spent the whole day together on August 6th, moving, shopping for the girls' school supplies, etc. Everything's normal from her perspective. That evening, they were moving the girls' things into her home on Porcupine, and she was, in fact, at the Paladura residence last night doing that. She would go on to describe it's a normal night, and that John was alive and well in the garage when she left. Remember that. Further investigation, of course, occurs. Homicide detectives are treating this very seriously. You will learn from many of them that when a homicide such as this comes in, they divide duties. There's too much for one person to do. And so, although there is a lead detective who goes by the name of Dennis Ozawa, Detective Ozawa was not in any way the only person investigating this case. He had an entire team, and you will hear from many of those people. You will learn that one big thing in the modern days of investigation is video cameras. They're everywhere in our valley, so they canvass all around the Paladura residence, kind of right in the middle of all those yellow markers. They canvass all these different addresses for anything who saw, heard anything, and anyone who had a camera. Some of those were fruitful, some of them were not. They knocked on the doors where video cameras were visibly present. They even knocked on doors where they weren't present in the hopes that maybe someone saw or heard something. And they gathered a lot of footage. We're going to do our best during the course of this trial to streamline it for you. There's hundreds of hours of footage, and we're going to present it in the best way we can. They also learned that there is a neighbor directly to the left of the homicide scene who had a motion-activated Ring camera, which will become important later in the trial. There also was an autopsy, of course. The Henderson Detective Ozawa attended that autopsy. You will hear from the medical examiner in this case, Dr. Stephanie Yagi with the Clark County Coroner's Office, who enlisted the assistance of a forensic anthropologist, Dr. Burns, who works out of UNLV. You will learn that Dr. Yagi surmised that the cause of death was homicidal violence and the manner of death was homicide. You will learn that she noted the non-thermal chemical burns on the body, which did not contribute to his death, but were notable for investigative purposes. Something important I want you to keep in the back of your mind is there were no bleeding injuries anywhere else on the body, so everything was focused neck and above. You will learn that the decapitation occurred post-mortem. There are histological reactions that the body has if this type of thing happens while you're still alive and your body is trying to actively repair itself. None of those were present during the course of the autopsy, and so the doctor will testify that this was a post-mortem decapitation. As I mentioned, she enlisted the assistance of a forensic anthropologist, Dr. Burns. You will hear from her as well. She will talk about the science behind what she does, and in this particular case, she was enlisted for the main purpose of determining what was used to cut off Mr. Willette's head. She will tell you that she did microscopic examination. During the course of that thorough examination, she determined very clearly that there were 2 separate instruments used to chop off his head. She even can narrow it down by time because of the layering of the artifacts on the bones, and so she will surmise and testify that first a serrated or non-serrated knife was used. So a knife, whether serrated
Most
or
likely a saw, most likely.
successful, the defendant then used a powered saw of some sort.
See, I was right.
Class you will learn, or class of tool, you will learn that the bones in the neck, the cervical spine, are very small. There are areas on it which would reflect these markings, but they are so small that she can't really surmise what type of saw. She'll testify that if it's a long bone, She has seen cases with dismemberment, involving dismemberment, but not a decapitation. But with dismemberment of larger bones, you can see more, which allows you to narrow down the type of saw that was used, but here that's not possible. Nonetheless, she will testify clearly that it was two different instruments, knife first, saw second.
Damn.
Further investigation also revealed what
Where
Mr.
did it go?
Draskovich alluded to in jury selection, a very non-traditional family situation. And I kind of mentioned this a little bit earlier. The investigation revealed that the defendant, after splitting with John,
Listen,
ultimately married his son.
y'all heard that shit, didn't you?
Devier, who's in
She got rid of the daddy and got with the son. I just want y'all to hear that.
ended up for a short period of time over the summer of 2023 before school starts, living in the home with the defendant and Devier, with Jonathan living back at the Paladura residence with his mom and Yeshida. This is Clark County Department of Family Services document showing the parent placement verification letter describing that John was awarded full physical custody of the girls on October 27th of 2022. That Jonathan, as I said, and the girls were living at 2698 Paladura at the time. You can see in the document that the defendant had weekly supervised visitation with the girls for an extended period of time. And you will learn through various witnesses that John kind of bent the rules with that and allowed her to see the girls a little bit more than was court ordered. You will also learn that John allowed the girls to stay with the defendant and Devier, as I mentioned, at the Porcupine Rim address over the summer of 2023. And that Jonathan was going to move in with the defendant and the girls to try to stabilize their lives and basically try to get everyone under the same roof. The girls were having a real hard time with the custody situation, and his main focus was the girls. Obviously, with all this information they have gathered, the defendant is now a person of interest. She's the last person to see John. She's been over there very close in time to his murder. There's all these ties. There's the custody paperwork I showed you earlier, the writings that were in his room. And so they respond to Porcupine Rim. I can't remember if I put a map in here, but I'll just tell you we'll have a Google map for you that shows the distance between the homes. They're about 30 minutes apart. Paladura is in Henderson. Porcupine Rim is in Las Vegas, and it's a pretty good distance, about 30 minutes. The detectives will tell you, this is Detective Ozawa and Detective Carrie Skinner, that when they go to the residence, they observe the defendant. She's kind of either moving stuff or moving back and forth between the home and the vehicle, and they note a couple of things before they approach and make contact with her. You see the Nissan Armada, which is the defendant's vehicle. Looks pretty clean and shiny. You will see that cell phone on the right. The detectives observed that when they first drove up, kind of sitting in the rocks near the driveway. Thought, okay, that's weird, but we're not going to touch it. We're not executing the search warrant yet. They leave it be, and then they make contact with the defendant to interview her again. Because now they know some more things, and things aren't quite adding up, and they want to know a little bit more. They make contact with the defendant, and this is prior to them going into the home and executing a search warrant on the home. They get a little more information, but the story generally remains the same. That John recently dated Andrea, this is extra information, but that last night he threw away his engagement ring in the trash can at Paladura, which, remember that. That John wanted to get back together with her romantically. This is new information. And move in, which we already know to provide stability for the girls. She mentioned that Yoko does not know Devier and I are married. She claimed that her marriage with Devier was one of convenience for insurance purposes and non-romantic and not sexual in nature. You will learn, and you'll actually hear it, the interview. During this interview out in the police vehicle in front of Porcupine Rim, the girls walk up and you can hear them with their sweet little voices, and they're like, "This is Daddy's phone. This is Daddy's phone. This is why he wasn't answering." The detectives realize that's kind of take the phone from the girls. The girls give it to them, and the detectives note blood on the phone. Something important. They ask the defendant, "Well, how did this get here?" And she responded generally that he must have left it here earlier in the day when he was moving. And, I don't know. I mean, there's a cigarette butt over there. I know he smoked cigarettes by where the phone was. He probably left it. And the detectives are a little suspicious of that. They ask her a few more questions. Again, you're going to hear this stuff in the audio recording. So I've summarized it. And then ultimately at the end, she again sticks with this. John was alive and well in the garage when I left. As I mentioned, the detectives entertain a search warrant and execute that search warrant on the home. They also get the warrant for the vehicles. You'll learn that white moving van is Devier's work van. He was a home security installer. He did various jobs for a legitimate company. They searched that vehicle, nothing of evidentiary value found in that vehicle. You can also barely see behind the van. There's a small sedan that's inoperable, but they search it nonetheless. They find nothing of evidentiary value. When it comes to the defendant's Nissan Armada, they photograph it on the outside, but then they apply seals to every opening, and then they tow that to have it searched later at their lab. You will learn they find in the garage the ring cameras from John's home. A little weird. They grab them up. They seize them pursuant to the search warrant in the hopes that maybe since these are the cameras from John's home, it captured something. There is no footage, unfortunately, associated with it. They issued administrative subpoenas and attempted to obtain footage from Ring. There was no footage because he didn't have the right account to store the Ring footage in the cloud. And I'm butchering the technical terms, I'm sure, but you'll hear all of this from witnesses. They also noted that there was no SD card in the cameras themselves, but nonetheless, they took them, they seized them pursuant to the search warrant, just to make sure. You'll also learn they find several of the defendants' writings throughout the home describing kind of the relationship with Devier, not exactly how the defendant described it to them to begin with. Very importantly, they find the defendant's purse. Inside her purse, they find the victim's social security card, along with one of her work cards. This is the defendant's bedroom. What I've circled there is basically her underwear drawer. When you execute a search warrant, you go through everything. You basically toss the place. And when they were searching the defendant's underwear drawer, they found something. My mouse is freezing on me here. Very important. They find several layers of knotted plastic bags, and inside they find the victim's wallet, current identification, and his only set of truck keys. After the search warrant, they speak with the defendant again.
Damn, she looking rough.
They learn that the defendant's version regarding the phone is that she has no idea how it ended up there. They confront her with the blood on the screen. She initially says, "Oh, I don't know," and then she says, "He cut himself moving." Remember when I talked about the autopsy earlier, no other bleeding injuries on the victim's body? Remember that? She claims he cut himself while he was moving. There's no evidence to suggest that. They learned John wanted to move in with the defendant so we could have the girls under one roof and parent them. They further learned, although they already kind of know this, that John has physical custody of the girls, and the defendant claims she plays nice with him to kind of keep access to the girls to keep things kosher. They also learned, which is very important, that John was moving in quicker than she expected. They learned not only from the defendant but other witnesses that this idea of them reuniting for the children had been discussed for several months, but that on this night, on August 6th, John began loading stuff into the truck when the defendant is loading up the girl's stuff into the truck, and she kind of realizes for the first time he was serious about this and this is going to happen. And you learn that that's when the walls start closing in on the defendant and she makes the decision she made. The detectives confront her with the fact that there is no notifications on the phone when the girl's provided. It's black, they open it, and there are no notifications on the screen. But that she had contacted him several times the night before, and that those notifications should be there based on the timing of the phone arriving at her house.
Ah, crap, I didn't mean to do that. Hold on, y'all. Hold on. I did not mean to do that. Hold on. God, I did not mean to do that. There we go.
They ask her before telling her what they have found in the home. They ask her, hey, do you have any idea where John's wallet would be? She says very unequivocally, no idea. They then say, well, hey, we kind of found this ID in this wallet in your bedroom. And she then changes her story and she provides a version. Again, you will hear this audio recording in which she says it was back at the Paladura residence. She had the plastic bags open and John placed his items into the bag and she tied them up right in front of him. And they confront her when the story doesn't make sense over and over. That's kind of the story she sticks with regard to that. You will learn there was an extensive follow-up investigation after that interview. Although things weren't adding up, although things looked very strange, the detectives did not rush to judgment and arrest her right there. Although all of the victim's property is inside her home, his blood is at her scene, they don't arrest her right there. They choose to do follow-up investigation. You will learn there was fingerprint analysis that was done. Nothing really of evidentiary value comes of that. You will learn that DNA processing was done, that the victim's blood was in fact on the phone at her house, and that the defendant's DNA was on the knot of those plastic bags where his property was found inside. You will also learn that an extensive digital investigation was done, and that was in the form of video surveillance, digital forensics, meaning phone dumps. They take the actual devices found. There's 11 found inside her home, including the victims. They plug it into a machine. They'll talk about the technology. They're able to extract the data from the phone, and they find several things of note. They also do a call detail record investigation. That is the records that your cell phone maintain or are maintained on your cell phone, everybody's cell phone, with the company you use for service. And those records not only show incoming and outgoing messages and calls, but they also show location data, because every time you place a call or receive one, you are pinging on some kind of tower and leaving a trail of where you've been. Not a precise trail, but a general trail of where you've been. They also pull Burla. Burla is a lot more precise than the cell phone towers. That is an infotainment system inside the Nissan Armada. And they're able to extract that data, and I'll show you that in a moment. They very clearly get a timeline based upon the Burla. The defendant's vehicle is at the victim's home by 10 o'clock at night. The vehicle activates but does not move at about 11 o'clock at night. The vehicle leaves the home for good at 2:04 a.m. 2:04 a.m. on August 7th, and you'll see that in a moment. I've noted here that the video surveillance, DFL, and CDR rule out Devier. Obviously, he was interviewed. You will hear from him during the course of this trial, but they treat him as a suspect. Obviously, there's fishy circumstances. They're not just pinning this on the defendant because what she's saying doesn't make sense. They're looking into both the defendant and Devier and others. The video surveillance that I'm referring to is kind of wide-ranging. There is one particular camera you're going to learn about that was near the Porcupine Rim residence, the defendant's home. That is a full-time camera. That's not an ocean-activated camera. That allows them to see the home, see what vehicles left, came and went at any given time, and they clearly rule out Devier from that video. In addition, I mentioned earlier, there's video surveillance from next door to the victim's home that captures the defendant at around 11 a.m. going to her vehicle, moving it slightly, and then ultimately leaving. Gotta love technology. Here are a couple of additional clips from video surveillance. The one on the left is the defendant with the victim the night before when they're doing the moving. It shows us that they are together, that no third party is present, it's just them. They go into a store, they buy an item, and they leave. And then 2:28 a.m., the defendant is alone. It kind of clipped off on this particular picture, but the defendant is alone in her vehicle after she leaves the residence and goes back to her home, ultimately landing there about 2:46 a.m. Those digital forensic examinations I mentioned become relevant, especially when it comes to Devier. There's much more than this, but I'm trying to narrow it down for the opening statement. This particular message was sent from Devier to the defendant. As you can see at 10:36 p.m. See you when you get back. I'm going to sleep. Girls are in the living room. And the video surveillance supports that. This image you're seeing now is the CDR cell tower location data. There is much more to it when the witness testifies. There's a bunch of animated videos you're going to see. Just for this purpose, I did a screenshot. The blue and red represent the victim and the defendant's phone, and the green represents Devier's phone at our operative time period, showing him across town when that last message was sent and throughout the evening. You'll also see the burla that I referenced earlier. As I mentioned, burla leaves actual GPS breadcrumbs, like by the foot. So as opposed to just a tower you're hitting on, this is actually showing the track. And you're going to see very clearly when the defendant came and went from the victim's residence on the night of August 6th, as well as when she left on August 7th. After all of this information is gathered, it's very clear that the defendant did this to the detectives. They make the decision to place her under arrest for murder with use of a deadly weapon. After she is arrested, she is interviewed again. This time they tried with two different detectives. Obviously, the statements she gave earlier were inconsistent, and so they send in a couple of other detectives, and you'll hear from that detective as well. In this particular interview, the defendant acknowledged that she realized John was actually moving in, that at the time of the murder, she was giving John a massage on the bed. While he was lying on his stomach, the defendant got up, walked over to the fireplace, and grabbed a large, what she referred to as a stick or maybe a candle holder. It's a large, heavy object. John was lying on his stomach, not a threat, in the midst of a massage, face down, unexpected, and the defendant admits that she returned to the bed, bashed him over the head with that club or stick, and that John went limp at that time. You will learn that the defendant refused to acknowledge what she did next. You can make your determination as to why someone might do that as this trial goes on. But she refused to tell detectives what she did with John's head or with the weapon, that those items were never recovered. And so you need to put together the pieces as the judge just described with the rain example. You will learn that this is the reality of the situation before John was killed, and that the defendant wanted John out of the picture. This is the future that she saw, that she wanted, and the only way to have that future was with John out of the picture. Thank you for your time and attention this week. We truly do appreciate it.
All right. Let's get this second part. Shout out to Court TV.
For the programs that we utilize, so like I said, Celebrite and Axiom and Burla, those softwares that I mentioned, I'm certified to use those as well.
I'll be back in a second.
Vendor certifications, and I have those as well.
So then turning your attention to this case, on August 8th, 2023, were you contacted by Detective Ozawa in regards to a vehicle infotainment system?
Yes, I was.
And was the obtaining of that vehicle infotainment system a part of a search warrant that was granted by a judge?
Yes, that is correct.
And this was for a homicide investigation that had occurred on August 7th, 2023, or began at that time?
Correct.
I believe the request was made by Detective Ozawa for this investigation, the digital investigation, and that was to be performed on a gray 2017 Nissan Armada. Is that correct?
That is correct, yes.
And the VIN number for
the 2017 Nissan Armada belonging to Devin Michaels, a huge piece of evidence in this case. This jury is going to see photos of it coming up soon. We've reached the top of the hour, so we're hitting the pause button. Thank you to Wendy Patrick for being with us. More Court TV after this.
Welcome back to Court TV Live. I'm Judge Ashley Wilcott, of course, honored to be with you today. We are in Nevada this afternoon for the murder trial of former porn star Devin Michaels. She is accused of bludgeoning and decapitating her ex-boyfriend Jonathan Willett back in August of 2023, just before he was getting ready to move back in with her. Prosecutors claim that Michaels was unhappy with how quickly the move was happening and was afraid it would disrupt the life she had with her new husband, Javier Willett, who also happens to be the victim's son. But the defense is pointing the finger at Javier Willett, saying he killed his father together with his dad. Let's get you back into court now for more testimony. This is Detective Jared Spangler, still on direct examination by the state.
for that is JN8AY 2NF9H9300802. Is that correct?
That sounds correct.
Do you have a reason to dispute that?
That sounds right. Yeah.
Okay. And it was your understanding that that vehicle had belonged to a Devin Michaels, correct?
Correct.
And did you actually make contact with the vehicle?
I did, yes.
Where did you make contact with the vehicle?
The vehicle was located in the basement of our police station. And so that's where I went to the basement.
And is that common sometimes for vehicles to have their investigations done in that basement area?
Yes, it's a secure area where it's not going to be disturbed. No one will be around the vehicle. It has a door that prevents anybody from coming in and potentially altering any evidence or anything like that.
So it's a very contained area, is that
Yes.
right? When you came into contact with the vehicle, it had already previously been sealed prior to being transported to this basement, correct?
That is correct.
And prior to your testimony, there were a lot of photos that were taken in this case, but you saw the vehicle yourself, correct?
I did.
Okay, and you reviewed these photos prior to testifying today, these in my hand, correct?
Yes, I did.
And I believe pursuant to a stipulation between the parties, the state is going to move to admit 442 through 463.
Those stipulations?
Yes, Your Honor.
Yes, Your Honor.
442, 463, stipulated.
Permission to publish? Show and use 442. What do we see there?
That's the 2017 Nissan Armada.
And 443, another angle of that.
Yes. Same vehicle.
444,
Yes.
445, we get a license plate there, and can you read that into the record?
Yep. It's Nevada 30A as an Adam 470.
446, another angle of the vehicle.
Yes.
And I want to note both passenger doors to this vehicle. There appears to be these red tapings there. What are those?
That is evidence tape that I believe the crime scene analyst was the one that put those on there so that you would know if someone's opened the door and if it's been altered because the seal would be broken.
And that's the ceiling we were talking about earlier, correct? 447, just a close-up there with the seal, correct?
Correct.
Then 448, obviously you go inside the vehicle, is that right?
Yes.
And is this just a photo of inside the vehicle, the front side of the vehicle?
Yes, driver's side.
449, what do we see here?
The
I'm back.
shifter in the middle console.
450, another angle of that area,
Yes.
taken from the passenger side.
That is correct.
451, are you aware of this being located inside the vehicle?
I didn't personally see it.
Okay. But no reason to dispute that it would have been found in the vehicle.
Yes.
452, are we getting to the back of the vehicle now?
Yes, we are.
Okay, and this would be on the driver's side, correct?
Correct.
453, same back of the vehicle, but now from the passenger side.
Yes.
454, is this just under the hood of the vehicle,
Yes, it is.
the engine area?
Yes.
455, would this be the rear trunk of the vehicle?
Yes, that is correct.
And this was a hatchback, so the back would actually lift in the air, is that right?
Yes.
456, more of the trunk of the vehicle.
Correct.
What is being lifted up at that point?
I'm not sure. It seems to be some type of covering for the back there.
But it was searched, it looks like.
Yeah, yes, it was.
457, more of the vehicle.
Yes.
458, what do we see here happening?
So the vehicle infotainment system is behind the screen of what you would see inside the vehicle. So you can see the screen up above, but right beneath it is where there's a hard drive. And so in order to extract the data from the infotainment system, I have to get that hard drive out of the vehicle. So I had to disassemble some of the components so that I could access the hard drive.
And there's actually a mouse in front of you if you want to hover over that area you were just talking about. Yes, don't click, just hover, please. Please hover, sir, in that area you were speaking about.
So you can see that there's these little wires right here, the little connection points that I had to disconnect. The logic board where the hard drive is attached to. There's one right there, and there's a few down here. But in order to access this, you have to take the whole front face piece off of it.
And do we see that in that photo, that front face piece?
Yeah.
Can you please hover over that?
Right up above, up here. That's where like the volume for the stereo is, to change the channel, things of those nature. So all that had to come out. So I lifted it and put it up there.
And this is a typical procedure of what you would do when trying to collect data from a infotainment system, correct?
That is correct.
And showing you 4.89, what do we see here?
These are, so once the logic board is taken out, I had to take specific pieces of that apart so I could access the hard drive. So what you're seeing here, there's one there, there's a second one here, and a third one. These are just cover pieces on the board itself to protect the hard drive so that if there's any, I don't know, maybe liquid or anything like that, it's protected. So I had to remove these pieces off of the hard drive itself and the logic board so I could access the hard drive.
Showing you 460, we see an extra piece there. What is that?
So this here is it's just a secondary logic board that's connected to the first one, and I believe over here to the side, but pretty sure the hard drive was connected to this logic board over here. So
All right, let's leave that there for just a moment. I want to welcome criminal defense attorney, former prosecutor Jack Bryce. Jack, of course, great to be on with you. Thank you for joining. Tell me what you think of Detective Spangler's testimony about the search of the defendant's vehicle, and what is the prosecution looking for here?
Well, I'm always impressed when I see sort of a lot of baseline experience and you're really being very, very careful about laying this out. Remember, any testimony is about, first of all, showing credibility. This started out with 22 years with the department, 17 years working this issue, dealing with all these things. It's to show that if you listen to them, you're going to believe him. That's first. And then secondly, then they start moving into the facts of the case itself. And so what you're talking about is this very thorough search.
Right.
And again, this is about credibility, but also about belief. So this is about really setting up how they can control what he found once he opened up this hard drive. I've dealt with this before in cases of my own, where frequently what you're looking for is so much information that you can actually pull from these rolling computer systems. That's what all of our cars are now. This is nothing like it was when I was a kid, but certainly now you have that, so you can talk about where somebody was, where they stopped, how fast they were going,
Yep.
if they went backwards.
All that.
All of these things, plus GPS and everything else. That's really where I think we're going with this witness, but we're still pretty early on.
Right. Well, when you have a witness like this, to your point, that has years of experience, seemingly very credible on the stand, how do you prepare and how do you cross a witness like this if you're representing the defendant?
Boy, it's the $10,000 question, isn't it? Oh, you're always giving me on those ones. You know what? This is the first thing that I do. I'm afraid of, as a defense attorney, I'm afraid of this officer because not only is he extremely experienced at doing what he's doing in front of this jury, he's very, very good at dealing with cross. And if he can hurt me, he will. And so what I'm doing is I'm going to come at him very, very specifically, intentionally, about what he failed to do that is consistent with my narrative of the case. What is it that he should have done that he missed? And frequently, that can be very, very quick. There are times when I ask nothing because it doesn't mean anything. And what I don't want to do is open the door to something that allows him to really open up, and then he can really hurt me. I'm always conscious of that, certainly with professional witnesses, which is actually what I call police officers.
Yes, but I would argue, Jack, that not all attorneys are well enough practiced, versed, or acknowledge that sometimes being quiet and not asking questions and not going on and on is the right strategy. So we're going to see what happens in this case. Stand by if you would, please. Coming up next, more testimony in the murder trial for Devin Michaels. Plus, Court TV's own Kelly Kraft has all of the latest in the trial of Luke Truesdell, the man accused of attacking 4 people with a metal pipe. Stay with us. We'll be right back.
Tonight on Closing Arguments, NFL legend Antonio Brown facing an attempted murder charge. We're kicking off this week with a deep dive into the ex-NFL star's many legal troubles.
Closing Arguments, tonight at 8/7 Central, only on Court TV this week.
Get your day started with true crime and trial drama. Each morning, we'll take you inside the country's biggest cases before we take you inside the courtroom.
Opening statements with Julie Grant. Mornings at 8/7 Central on Court TV.
Watch TV.
court in Nevada. Let's check in Iowa, where testimony continues in the murder trial for Luke Truesdell. He's accused of killing 4 people at a rural property just last year. Prosecutors say that Truesdell ambushed the group inside a garage workshop, attacking them with a 3-foot metal pipe and leaving behind a bloody, chaotic scene. Let's bring in Court TV legal correspondent Kelly Craft now for the latest. Great to see you, Kelly. Tell us, because I know a lieutenant who was the one that arrested Truesdell returned to the witness stand today. What can you tell us about his testimony?
Hey there, Judge Ashley. A lot stood out from his testimony, and I want to point out that his testimony actually isn't complete, but they took a lunch break there, and he was going to resume his testimony, but now they've called another witness, so we're still not complete with that lieutenant's testimony as of yet. Who was called to the stand? A DNA analyst, and you mentioned that bloody metal pipe. Well, that's one of the things that the DNA analyst is eventually going to start talking about. Right now in her testimony, she was just talking about the items that were submitted for her review. She mentioned that metal pipe, as well as a t-shirt, gloves, a pair of gloves, also a knife sheath. So she mentioned several items that she had been taking a look at. Why don't we go ahead and listen to some testimony from earlier today. This is from that lieutenant who did arrest Truesdell. Let's hear what he had to say.
And as you enter into that building, as we've heard testimony, and you go through the main door, not the garage doors, what was located directly to the right?
The pipe.
The black metal pipe?
Yes.
The metal pipe that was collected by officers?
Yes.
The metal pipe that was told to you by Luke Truesdell?
Yes.
The same pipe that was used when he admitted to hitting all 4 of them?
Yes.
When I say he, that was Luke Truesdell?
Yes.
Was that the only person that admitted to hitting all of them?
Yes.
And Judge Ashley, there was confession in this particular investigation that came, but all of it has not been admitted into evidence. So the only partial of the confession has been admitted so far. But you heard the lieutenant on the stand there just talking about part of it.
Well, given that partial admission that's going to be admitted, what can you tell us about the defense strategy in this case?
Yeah, it's a tough one, but they are pointing the finger at someone else. Who? The defendant's father. And so one of the things that they've been talking about is the botched investigation. That's what defense counsel is saying. This is a botched investigation. You really didn't even look at the father. He was allowed to roam free, and asking investigators who have been on the stand, why didn't you question the father more? One of the other things that was testified about today is the amount of drugs that were in the system of the defendant in this case. Let's listen to the lieutenant talking about the defendant and his drug use.
And you said you last used a couple days ago. You're not going to have an overdose or anything like that?
No, sir. I just smoked a little, I believe, this morning.
Meth?
I can say yes, but I'm not a chemist.
That's right.
Okay, so that right there is Luke confirming that he had, in fact, smoked something earlier.
Yes.
So, at this point, not only did we have let's call it an educated belief, but now we have a statement I smoked earlier, so we know he's high.
An admission, yes.
Okay. Now, based on your training and experience, could you venture a guess which substance he had been smoking?
Based on my experience, I believe it was meth.
So high on meth. When we're listening to that audio, it's really hard to hear, and that's how the jurors are listening to it, but it's a bunch of wind noise. So what the prosecutor has been doing is playing it and then asking the lieutenant on the stand to talk about what was said.
Kelly Craft, thank you so much for all the latest on that case. It is a compelling one for sure. Right now, let's head back to another compelling case in Nevada where defendant Devin Michaels is standing trial accused of killing her ex-boyfriend after marrying his son. On the stand still is Detective Jared Spangler testifying about his search of Michaels' car, still on direct examination by the state.
Were more pieces removed in order to access the hard drive.
And these tools that we see sort of above that area, I'm pointing there for you, it looks like some screwdrivers and different tools. That would be a part of your kit, is that right?
That is correct.
Not something found in the vehicle.
No, not at all.
461, what do we see here?
More of the same pieces that were attached to the logic board themselves, and the tools are above there.
Now these green objects, those are the logic boards that you're referring to?
Correct.
462, just more components to it.
That is correct. Coverings for the hard drive itself, yes.
463, what do we see there?
Some more of the tool sets right here. The back piece, you can see that there's a little vent because it has to keep cool, so it has to have air coming in and out. And then obviously all the screws that piece everything together to the main housing, and then just additional tools to perform the extraction of the hard drive.
So now that you've taken apart the infotainment system, what do you do after that point?
So once the hard drive has been removed from the logic board, I bring the hard drive back to the digital forensic lab, which is in the same building. I take it up to the digital forensic lab, and I connect the hard drive to a forensic computer. We have to use forensically sound methods, which means we have to prevent anything being written to the hard drive. So we use a write blocker, which only allows us to see the contents on the hard drive. So I can see the contents, but I'm not able to alter those. That way we preserve the evidence. So at that point, we create a digital forensic fingerprint, we'll call it. It's a hash value, but it's a fingerprint of the data on the hard drive. So when I extract the data and I put it on my forensic computer, I can then create another fingerprint and compare the two to what it was before and what it was afterwards to make sure they match. So I extracted the information, put it on the forensic computer. Then I open up the Burla software that I mentioned earlier, which allows us to process and analyze the specific data on that hard drive.
So specifically, what type of data is being imported into this Burla software?
So the hard drive contents itself, there's databases. That's usually what infotainment systems have, are databases. Kind of think like an Excel spreadsheet. It's a database with input data on there. And from there, it has to be analyzed, it has to be sorted through to figure out what specifically is it saying, what is the data.
So it may be an oversimplification, but it's essentially, Burla acts as sort of a reader of the data, is that right?
Yes.
And then puts it in a reader-friendly format so that you can actually see what this data is saying?
That is correct.
And it's not altering the data at any point when you're importing it from the drive into the Burla system, correct?
Correct.
So after you do that, the raw data is now inside the Burla system. What does the system do? Or what does the software do at that point?
It allows the user to be able to analyze it. So it, specifically for infotainments, this infotainment system, it recorded GPS location. And that GPS location is organized in trips. So when you start the vehicle, as soon as you put the key in and it turns it on to the accessories or on to the on position, it begins recording GPS, and it records that as a trip. So we'll just say that's going to be trip number 1. Every second that GPS is recording on that trip number 1. So you may drive from here, point A to point B. As soon as you turn the vehicle off, that's trip 1. If you take the key out and turn it back on, now you're on trip 2. And so it organizes it in these databases I was mentioning earlier. It organizes it in a process where you can see the trips. You can see the latitude, the longitude, the elevation, the speed during each GPS waypoint. So it records all these waypoints, and it's organized in a way. So Burla, the software, allows us to go through and map all those waypoints, those GPS waypoints, so we can see the trip. So we can physically see, okay, this is where it started, and it's going along, and this is where it ended, and this was the speed, and such and such.
And it takes into account dates and time, correct?
Yes, I forgot to mention, I apologize. It does, every second that the GPS pings, as we'll call it, it records a date and a timestamp.
And then ultimately, are videos created that show in a friendly manner where the vehicle is moving at what date and what time around the valley?
Yes, the software, the Brilla software allows you to take one of those trips and animate it so that it's what we would be visually appealing for us, what we're used to seeing. It puts it on a map and you can see it, plot it. You can see the vehicle go the direction and go from point A to point B.
So now that you have this raw data or this information that was put into the Burla software at this point, it's in a way that you can actually read it now. You then get some information that was gathered from Detective Ozawa, correct?
Yes.
Okay, and that was related to the investigation. Specifically then, having that information, did you hone in on the dates of August 6th, 2023 to August 7th, 2023?
Yes.
And that was because that was of importance in the investigation, correct?
That is correct.
Okay. And how do you actually do you just filter to those dates and times, or how do you just hone in on that?
Yeah, because everything's recorded in a descending from the oldest to the newest, you just scroll down to the dates you want, and you can see everything in with a 24-hour period or a 12-hour period, whatever is requested by the detective. And so he requested a specific time period, so I just scrolled down and highlighted those at that point. Those were the focus.
And you were able to find 11 videos of evidentiary value, is that right?
Yes.
And so that would essentially be 11 trips or so?
That's correct, yes.
Okay. And prior to testifying today, you provided those trips on a flash drive, is that correct?
Yes, I did.
And I believe at this time, Your Honor, pursuant to stipulation of the parties, the state is going to move to admit Exhibit 7.
Yes, Your Honor.
Permission to publish?
And there it is, getting the GPS data from that vehicle of the defendant, Michaels. It's going to give us a lot of information. Stand by. We need to take a break. When we come back, we will bring you more of the Love Triangle beheading trial up next. Welcome back to Court TV Live. I'm Judge Ashley Wilcott. Honored to be with you. Let's get you back to Las Vegas now for day 4 of the Love Triangle beheading trial of Devin Michaels. She is accused of bludgeoning and decapitating her ex-boyfriend Jonathan Willett back in August of 2023, just before he was getting ready to move back in with her. But the defense is pointing the finger at the victim's son, Davier Willett, who was now married to the defendant Michaels, saying he was the one who killed his father because he was afraid that if his father moved in, he, the son, would lose Devin in their home. Let's go back into the courtroom now. Still on the stand is a digital forensics detective going over the evidence in the navigation system of the defendant's SUV.
All right, so we see here, again, video number 1 through video number 11 of Exhibit 7, correct?
Yes.
Okay. And going through this, obviously you went through each video, and there's certain trips that became important as part of the investigation, correct?
Yes, that's correct.
So we're going to open up video number 1. All right, I'm going to pause that. What do we see here in video number 1?
So this is the Burla software that I was explaining earlier. These videos I created. I just used a Windows capture program so you could see what I see as an examiner. So this is the Burla software. The trips that were of importance, I made videos for those trips. So this is one of the trips. If you look, I'm not going to click, but I'm going to hover my mouse over here. You can see this is the timestamp of when this trip, we're looking at trips, when this trip began on 8/6 of 2023 at 5:19 p.m. That's adjusted for UTC. For our time, it's not UTC. Everything is recorded in UTC. So we have to subtract 7 hours. And then the trip ends on the same date at 5:58 and 33 seconds p.m. So one thing you'll notice if you look over here, you can see the count is 2,368. That's how many waypoints. Every second the GPS is recording, that's how many waypoints or GPS points are recorded in this trip. So you can see the distance was 25 miles, the elapsed time, the average speed, those things that that the GPS system will actually record. So what I did was, when we hit play, you'll be able to see, I'm going to animate this trip so you can follow where it goes.
And just briefly, because I don't think we've talked about this yet, can you explain what UTC time is?
Yes, so it's Greenwich time. It's the time over in England, and we are every hour. It's spread out by distance, and where we are at right now, we are. Well, I think we're at 8 now, but we were -7 at the time. So it's either -7 or -8. So everything is recorded in UTC time. It's the same way with computers and cell phones, vehicle infotainments. Everything is recorded in UTC time, and then this system and us, we have to manually adjust according to time the daylight savings or not.
And so the times we're seeing here are not UTC, they're the correct times.
They're adjusted, yeah, and it even.
Yeah, I'm working on that.
It said it on there. I adjusted it so we wouldn't have to do any math in our head or anything. It's just automatically adjusted.
Okay, so I'm gonna go ahead and press play on this video. And then I think we saw you click animate tracking. That's that process you were explaining previously, right?
Yes.
What else do we?
So you're looking at the overview at this second. I'm zooming in so that as I hit play, you can follow it along.
Okay.
So this is where the trip starts. And you can see in the bottom left-hand corner, again, I'm not going to click, but you can see down here the date and the time when the trip started.
And what is that, just for the record?
That is 8/6 of 2023 at 5:19 and 12 seconds p.m.
And that's just where we're stopped right now, correct?
Correct, yes.
And we're able to determine that that dot right there is the 2698 Paladura Drive in Henderson, correct?
That is correct.
Okay. And then I'll go ahead and play for more. And what I notice right now is it's going fairly quickly. It looks like, I'll stop here.
Yeah,
The bottom right, there's something that says 5 times. What does that mean?
Yeah, over here we're next to the mouse 5x. I didn't want to have a 45-minute video for a 45-minute trip, so I times it by 5 so it'd be a little bit quicker so that I could condense it a little bit. That's the only reason I made it 5 times, so we wouldn't be here all day watching videos.
And we appreciate that. Playing the video.
So at this point, you can see there's just a little bit of movement. It means the vehicle's on. It hasn't moved. There's a little bit of movement. It doesn't necessarily move that the vehicle. It doesn't mean that the vehicle has moved. It just means that it's on and it's recording GPS location. Kind of bounce around a little bit right in front of the residence. And you can see down here the seconds are moving rather quickly, but you can see the seconds there. Roughly 20, 25, and so on.
I'm gonna skip ahead a little bit here. Okay. At about, I think it was around 5:32, we then see the vehicle begin to move. Is that right?
Yes.
Okay, and I'll press play. And it appears it's going down One Mill Parkway at this point outside of the neighborhood.
Yes.
And ultimately, this trip, as I scroll across, is just the vehicle vehicle is traveling across the valley, correct?
Yes, that's correct.
Here in Las Vegas.
Yes.
Still with us, Jack Rice. Jack, you were right. Exactly what they are doing, what you predicted, which is using that GPS data. But I would point out two things. Number one is say that shows where the defendant's car went. There might be an argument, might not, that she wasn't in the car. But number two, is this the most effective way? Because it's a little tedious to hear all these little details.
No, I agree. I mean, what I find fascinating, what people have regularly missed, is that this detective has been trained on this. If you notice what he talks about, it's actually a very complex system using GPS over time, and they're averaging speed, so it's very difficult to determine how fast that the car was going and who was actually in the car. But if you listen to how he describes it, he's talking to these jurors, and in fact, it's actually non-responsive in terms of what he's doing. He's answering questions that haven't been asked. He's actually delivering this in a way he was trained to, so it sounds like he's just sort of describing something simple. This is not, but he's very, very effective at sounding like it's a very simple, very easy a piece of technology. It is not, but he's good at doing it, I gotta tell you that.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting to see as the jury's listening how clear it becomes as to exactly where Michaels was in her car. All right, stand by, Jack. We're going to have more testimony in the murder trial for Devin Michaels. Plus, a former assistant principal lost a multi-million-dollar civil trial for ignoring warning signs about a 6-year-old who shot his teacher. But what is next for Dr. Ebony Parker? We're going to have those details for you up next.
A former porn actor caught in a deadly father-son love triangle.
I'm not going to stop fighting to prove my innocence.
The Love Triangle beheading trial. Live coverage today on Court TV.
I felt right outside.
Don't you have the blood on your hands?
I feel guilty for that.
You felt guilty because, frankly, you were guilty. Interview with a Killer. New episode Saturday night at 8 Eastern and Pacific. Only on Court TV.
Back to court in Nevada in just a moment. But first, we have an update out of Virginia, where another civil trial and a criminal trial await former assistant principal Ebony Parker. Last week, a jury sided with former teacher Abigail Zwerner and awarded her $10 million, agreeing that Parker failed to act on warnings the day Zwerner was shot by a 6-year-old student.
We, the jury, on the issues joined, find in favor of the plaintiff, Abigail Zwerner, and assess her damages at $10 million. The award interest beginning on June 1st, 2024.
Now, not only will Parker face a criminal trial on 8 counts of felony child neglect, which we knew she was facing, she is also now being sued in a separate civil suit by multiple students who witnessed the shooting. It was announced during an exclusive interview on Opening Statements with Julie Grant just this morning. That criminal trial is scheduled for November 17th. We'll bring you all of the latest, of course, here on Court TV. Right now, let's head back to Las Vegas for more testimony in the Love Triangle beheading trial for former adult film star Devin Michaels. Prosecutors say that Michaels beat her ex, Jonathan Willett, to death and cut off his head. She originally pled guilty, but at her sentencing hearing, she had an emotional outburst declaring her innocence. Let's go back into court now. A detective on the stand breaking down the GPS data showing where the defendant's SUV went around the time of the killing.
And then ultimately, the vehicle comes to a stop, is that right?
Yes.
And that stop happens at 5510 Porcupine Rim Street, correct?
Yes, that's correct.
And that's essentially the end of this trip.
Yes.
Then we have another trip, and that's labeled as video, correct?
Yes.
Publishing.
You might have to use VLC.
And again, you're clicking animate tracking, correct? Or
Yes.
track log, excuse me. where is the start of this trip?
At the Porcupine address.
The 5510 Porcupine Rim?
Correct, yes.
And what date and what time?
You can see the date down here is 8/6 of 2023 at 7:37 p.m.
Pressing play. And again, vehicle begins to travel, correct?
Yes.
I'm just quickly scrolling through. Again, this is at 5 times that you have it set at, correct?
That is correct.
Or 5x. Ultimately, vehicle ending its trip at that same 2698 Paladura Drive, correct?
Yes,
In
correct.
Henderson?
Yes.
Okay, and roughly at about 8:06 p.m. on that same date, August 6, 2023, is when the vehicle comes to a stop on that trip, correct?
Correct.
And that's the end of that one.
Yes.
Okay. Opening file video number 3. Again, clicking animate track log.
So if I could just push pause just real quick. So this actually has 2 trips, and I'll explain real quick. So this first trip is very, very short. It's a span of 10 seconds. You can see the date here at 8/6/2023 at 11:05 and 46 seconds. The vehicle's either turned on or someone put this first trip here. I think we're calling it trip number 3. This trip number 3, the vehicle doesn't move, but the GPS is on and it's recording. And you're going to see that there's some movement there, just because that's how GPS works. Sometimes it can be off anywhere from 5 to 30 feet, roughly.
And it is possible that the vehicle may have moved slightly, but it's hard to tell from this, correct?
Correct.
Okay. And then I'll go ahead and press play.
And the reason I'm not talking too much is because I don't want to miss anything. So that's why I'm not talking that much.
Is a few hours later.
And I'm just going to pause. Around what time did that trip start?
So this is a few hours later on the 7th at 2:04 a.m.
August 7th, 2023 at 2:04 a.m., correct?
Yes, that is correct.
And again, at the 2698 Paladura Drive address.
Correct.
And the vehicle is now moving, correct?
Yes.
Going down Windmill. I'm going to go ahead and skip ahead a little bit. And I'm going to pause here. It looks like at about 2:28 in the morning, same date, August 7th, 2023, it looks like the vehicle is sort of hovering in this one location for a bit. Is that right?
Yes, that's correct.
And we determined that that was CBS located at Cheyenne and Durango with the address of 8320 West Cheyenne Ave, correct?
Yes, that's correct.
Pressing play. The vehicle is now moving, is that right?
Yes.
At about 2:31 in the morning,
Yes.
same date.
Yes, on the August 7th.
I'll go ahead and skip ahead. The vehicle is making its way across the valley, correct?
Yes.
Ultimately landing at that 5510 Porcupine Rim address, correct?
Correct.
And the time being 2:44 in the morning or so
Yes.
on August 7th, 2023.
Yes.
Playing video number 3 with the annotation zoomed in at the end. And this is that same trip, correct?
Yes, I labeled it as zoomed in. I wasn't sure what was going on. You can see that there's a lot of movement down there. After further investigation, it seems like...
Okay, I'll stop you there. So at 2:44 in the morning, this is that Porcupine Rim sort of stop, but it appears that there is some movement within the neighborhood, correct?
Correct. Yes.
Showing you video number 4. This is a new trip, correct?
Yes. This is at 8:01 a.m. on August 7th, 2023.
And the starting address is that 5510 Porcupine Rim address, correct?
Yes, that is correct.
Thank you, of course, to Jack Rice for joining us today. Coming up, more of the Love Triangle beheading trial. Stay with us here on Court TV. Your front row seat to justice.
Hey everyone, it's me, Devin Michaels. Come say hi. Anything you need about the body?
I think this is obviously the decapitated.
For you to be able to look me in the eye knowing that things are altered and
You pled guilty, man. If he had known you were having a sexual relationship with his mother of his children,
I'm not gonna stop fighting to prove my innocence.
Welcome back to Court TV. I'm Ashley Wilcott. Thanks so much for being with us today. We're in Nevada, where a former adult film star is on trial for murder after prosecutors say she bludgeoned and decapitated her ex-boyfriend. Devin Michaels faces murder charges in the death of Jonathan Willett, the father of her 2 daughters. Now, during opening statements, prosecutors described a brutal killing that occurred as Willett was moving into Michaels' home, a home that she happened to share with Willett's son from a previous relationship. She was married to him. On the stand right now, a detective testifying about the defendant's movements around the time of the killing. Let's go back in for more.
And I'll go ahead and skip ahead. It appears that the vehicle exits the neighborhood on Ann Road and then makes what looks like a U-turn back into the neighborhood,
Yes, that's correct.
back to that 5510 Porcupine Rim address, correct?
Yes,
And this is at 8:06 a.m.
that is correct. The vehicle's left on at this point.
The vehicle begins moving again roughly at 8:10
Yes.
in the morning. Go ahead and skip ahead. I'm gonna stop it right here at 8:16 in the morning. We see the vehicle, and it is stopped at what appears to be a Funny's gas station and car wash, correct?
That is correct.
And that's located at the intersection of Lone Mountain and Rancho there, specifically 4747 North Rancho Drive, correct?
Yes, that is right.
Pressing play.
At this point, the vehicle is still on. As soon as it turns off, the trip ends. So it's still on for these remaining minutes.
There appears to be some slight movement there around 8:18 in the morning, correct?
Correct.
Still some slight movement there,
Yes.
inching along. And that trip then ends, correct?
Yes.
Publishing video number 5. What time does this trip start?
This is on August 7th, 2023 at 8:21 a.m.
And this, again, we're starting at that Funny's car wash
Correct.
gas station. Looks like the vehicle begins to move around 8:21 or so.
Yes.
Sort of those slight movements we saw earlier. And now the vehicle is moving out of that area, correct?
Correct.
The vehicle then proceeds through the valley.
This is where the vehicle parks.
Vehicle parks. Does it appear to have parked at a children's school, so at the Torrey Pines, Washburn sort of intersection there?
Yes,
That we
there's an
see?
elementary school there.
Okay, and that would be Ernest May Elementary School, correct?
Yes.
And the trip ultimately ends at that elementary school.
Correct.
Video number 6, picking up from there. And around, it appears 9:27 in the morning is when this trip starts, still on August 7th, 2023. And again, we are starting at that Ernest May Elementary School, correct?
That is correct.
And that trip ends vehicle goes back to that 5510 Porcupine Rim address, correct?
That's correct.
And ultimately, ends there, correct?
That is correct. At 9:30 a.m.
Publishing video number 7. Trip starts at that 5510 Porcupine Rim, correct? At 9:35 a.m.
Yes, on August 7th, 2023.
Go ahead and skip through. Traveling across across the valley. Looks like it's on Summerlin Parkway. Ultimately, trip is concluding at 9:57 a.m.
That is correct.
And that appears to be Summerlin Hospital, 657 North Town Center Drive, correct?
Yes, that's correct.
Publishing video number 8. It appears to begin at that Summerlin Hospital address, correct?
Yes.
At 10:09 a.m.
Yes.
on August 7th, 2023.
That is right.
Eventually ending at that 5510 Porcupine Rim address, correct?
Correct.
And that was at 10:26 a.m. on August 7th, 2023.
Correct.
Publishing video number 9. The next trip. Starting out at the Pine Rim Street at 11:33 in the morning, same date.
That's correct. Yes.
Ultimately, the vehicle traveling across town to scrolled a little too fast there. It appears the 20 is there around 12:07 in the afternoon.
Yes, that's correct.
And the car stays on at this point, it looks like.
Yes. Yes.
Scrolling forward a bit. And the trip ends there at 12:43 p.m., correct?
Correct.
Publishing video number 10. Next trip. Starting out at that 2.
Yes.
At 12:51 p.m. or so.
Correct.
Scroll through. Trip ends at about 12:54 p.m. and it appears that it ends at a Taco Bell at the Windmill in Pecos, correct?
Correct. It's like a parking lot right there.
Finally, video number 11. Publishing. So next trip. And it originates from that Taco Bell at 1:31 p.m. on the same date. Ultimately, once we scroll through, and it ends at 2:01 p.m. on August 7th, 2023.
Correct.
And between all these videos, these were, this was the date and time frame that Detective Ozawa was most interested in based on the investigation in the case, correct?
Yes.
Pass the witness, Your Honor.
Yes, Your Honor.
The direct examination being wrapped up by the prosecutor, she says, okay, finally, during her questioning, to get all of the information out that they want to get out. Next, this detective faces cross-examination by the defense. Stay tuned. We'll be right back.
Tonight on closing arguments, NFL legend Antonio Brown facing an attempted murder charge. We're kicking off this week with a deep dive into the ex-NFL star's many legal troubles.
Closing arguments tonight at 8/7 Central, only on Court TV.
Sunday nights on Court TV. Join us for a night of food, friends, and our favorite legal dramas. It's Order in the Court, and this week we're binge watching Bull. Sundays on Court TV free.
We are watching key testimony in the Love Triangle beheading trial against former porn star Devin Michaels. She faces charges of open murder in the death of her ex-boyfriend, John. Decapitated back on August 7th of 2023. Before we go back into court, let's bring in criminal defense attorney Josh Shipper. Josh, always great to see you, my friend. Let's first of all ask about, this is the end of the direct examination. Give us your thoughts as we move into cross.
You know, I think that it's really been a very straightforward, regardless of the craziness that kind of surrounds this case, the storytelling has been proceeding in a really straightforward manner. And that's really, when you're carrying any kind of a burden, the most important goal for you. Create some way of communicating your information in a story-like, compelling, engaging manner that is easy for a jury to listen to. And that's been done so far by the state with these directs. The cross-examination, it's mostly just going to come back up to, again, trying to distract from the clarity being provided by the state and its prosecution by trying to suggest alternatives and trying to get the jurors to ask the questions that the state's just not allowed to ask straight out, or the defense is not allowed to ask straight out.
And poke those holes, some reasonable doubt for the jury. That's what we know the defense wants to do. What about this? In fact, Jack and I were texting about this, and now I want to ask you, the jury in this case can't ask questions. Now, I like that. I think if the jury can ask questions, great. But what do you think?
I love the more modern trend and more jurisdictions are doing this, allowing jurors to really come in and ask the question they want to know. They really want to know exactly what happened. And they may be asking questions about the story that the story hasn't answered. You know, when you're watching a drama unfold, you've got that engagement in your brain as a juror or as a reader. That's what the jurors are. They are the audience trying to figure out what's happening. If there are those unknowns, the direct question from the jury cuts straight through to the ultimate questions. And I love that for the clarity it provides.
I do too. Now, I know some defense attorneys say, I don't like that because the state has to prove their case. The jury shouldn't be able to help them do that if they have questions. But you and I may be on the same page on this one, Josh. We're going to go back into court now. Still on the stand is Detective Jared Spangler. He's facing cross-examination by the defense.
5 more minutes, y'all. 5 more minutes.
Detective Spangler, now, when the car comes in, you're the one that actually physically goes in and pulls up the unit, correct?
Inside the vehicle?
Yes.
Yes, that is correct.
So it's sealed at the scene, and it's not open until you open the door, correct?
I didn't open the doors. The crime scene analysts, since they're the ones taking the pictures, they physically open the doors.
Were you present for that?
When they opened them?
Yeah.
No.
Okay. In your time spent in the car pulling out this unit, you come to observe the general condition of the car when you're pulling out the unit, right?
Yes.
I'm putting up what's State's Exhibit 458. How do I switch over to this? right here is where you take the unit out, correct?
Yes, that's correct.
And you see this, console with brushes and various items of Miss Michaels, correct?
Correct.
You know what's States Exhibit 448. This is a different view from the car, correct?
Yes, the driver's side.
And you would go into the driver's side to get that unit, so you would probably sit in the driver's seat and pull that out.
I believe I accessed both sides, at some point throughout.
You're aware of the condition of the car and kind of what's in there.
In the front, yes.
Right. It's kind of a messy car from your view of this, correct?
I have teenagers, so my idea might be a little different.
It doesn't look like it would just, it's not wiped down. I mean, look, she's got brushes, there's things in the car, it's dirty, we have dirt on the floor, so it doesn't look like it just went and got detailed.
Correct.
Now, when you're accessing this unit and as you're pulling it out and looking at the console, and like you said, you accessed both sides of the car from the driver's side and potentially the passenger side.
Yes.
You didn't observe any blood in the car, did you?
I don't recall any blood.
Nothing on the steering wheel?
I don't recall touching the steering wheel, so I don't know, but from my memory, I don't recall any blood on the steering wheel.
But you're in the middle looking at the console where someone would be touching, obviously they put the car in gear, they've got the shift knob, so they would have to touch that. You can see any blood on that.
I didn't.
I'm going to put up what States Exhibit 451. This is just an ID that was found in there. Like, I believe you said that you didn't see this, but this is something that would have been in the car with Miss Michaels' personal belongings, correct?
Yes, I personally didn't see this, so I don't know where it was, but the crime scene analyst must have taken it, so yeah.
Now, going back to the videos that the state put up, there was end of video 3. There was like some squiggly lines kind of going. Do you remember that?
Yes.
And you previously testified that when the car's there, it can give or take 30, 50 feet. And that clearly looked like it was zoomed in on.
5 to 33 feet.
5 to 33 feet, correct. And then, are you aware of the Funny's gas station, or you just know the location?
I'm not aware of it. I just look at the map.
So it's not like you went out to Funny's and looked and saw what was there.
No.
Funny's gas station has gas pumps.
I would imagine.
And if I told you there was one, do you have any reason to disagree with me?
No.
At that location?
No.
Now, you looked at the infotainment system. Were you asked to do anything else on this case? To examine anything by Detective Ozawa at his request?
Yes. Later on, there was I believe it was a cell phone.
Cell phone, Samsung Galaxy Z Fold 4 cell phone. I don't want to read off all the model numbers, but it seems that you looked at that, or he asked you to examine that.
That is correct.
And that happened to be one of Devin Michaels' phones, correct?
I believe so, yes.
And that was a additional request by Detective Ozawa.
Yes.
Court's indulgence. No further questions, Your Honor.
Any policy?
Nothing for the state, Your Honor.
Please have the jury have any questions for this witness. Okay, seeing no objection, thank you very much for your time here today.
Okay, and that's it, ladies and gentlemen. I hope that you guys like the information that I was able to get out about this case. I do want to do a deep dive into this case. Hopefully, I can start on that next week. Hopefully. With that being said, like, share, subscribe. I'll see y'all later. Peace.